YouTube. We will be reading The Grapes of Wrath, page 138 at the start. For the start, we're going to, because we're low on flour, bud. Some people don't like me calling it flour. We have some gummies today. Let's check this out. Almost orange flavor. You can really taste the THC. Since we're going to be here in a minimum of 30 minutes, let's go ahead and take us up there. Ooh, it's red. My favorite color. Now, I said we had a little. I didn't say we had none. I want to thank you for being here today. I'll be reading to you. Please enjoy. If you are not reading along, please smoke along. And if you don't smoke, that's perfectly fine. If you're sleeping, I will do my best to not flare so dramatically at my speech. Alright. Click, click, click. Right. The Grapes of Wrath, page 138, paragraph 1. The motor droned along steadily, and the sun receded down the sky in front of them. Grandma slept steadily, and even Ma dropped her head forward and dozed. Tom pulled his cap over his eyes and shut out the blinding sun. Patton and Meeker is 13 miles. Meeker to Hera is 14 miles. And then Oklahoma City, the big city. Tom drove straight on. Ma waked up and looked at the streets as they went through the city, and the family on top of the truck stared about at the stores, at the big houses, at the office buildings. And then the buildings grew smaller, and the stores smaller, the wrecking yards and hot dog stands, the outer city dance halls. Ruthie and Winefield saw it all, and it embarrassed them with its bigness and its strangeness, and it frightened them with its fine-clothed people they saw. They did not speak of it to each other. Later, they would, but not now. They saw the oil derricks in the town, on the edge of the town, oil derricks black, and the smell of oil and gas in the air. But they didn't exclaim. It was so big and so strange, it frightened them. That's just country folk. In the street, Rosa Sharon saw a man in a light suit. He wore white shoes and a flat straw hat. She touched Connie and indicated the man with their eyes. And then Connie and Rosa Sharon giggled softly to themselves, and the giggles got the best of them. They covered their mouths, and it felt so good that they looked for other people to giggle at. Ruthie and Winefield saw them giggling, and it looked such fun that they tried to do it too, but they couldn't. The giggles wouldn't come. But Connie and Rosa Sharon were breathless and red from stifling laughter. Before they could stop, it got so bad that they only to look at each other to start over again. That's how you know you're really laughing. The outskirts were widespread. Tom drove slowly and carefully in the traffic. And then they were on 66, the great western road, and the sun was sinking on the line of the road. The windshield was bright with dust. Tom pulled his cap lower over his eyes, so low that he had to tilt his head back to see out at all. Grandma slept on, the sun on her closed eyelids, and the veins on her temple were blue. And the little bright veins on her cheeks were wine-colored, and the old brown marks on her face turned darker. Tom said, "You see on this road right straight through?" Ma had been silent for a long time. "Maybe we better find a place to stop for sunset," she said. "I gotta get some pork and boil and some bread made. That takes time." "Sure," Tom agreed. "We aren't gonna make this trip in one jump. Might as well stretch ourselves." Oklahoma City to Bethany was 14 miles. Tom said, "I think we better stop before the sun goes down. I've got to build that thing on the top. The sun will kill the folks up there." Ma had been dozing off, her head jerked upright. "Got to get some stuff for her cooking," she said. And she said, "Tom, your pal told me about you crossing the state line." He was long time answering. "Yeah, what about it, Ma?" "Well, I ain't scared about it. It'll make you kind of run away. Maybe they'll catch you." Tom held his head over his eyes to protect himself from the lowering sun. "Don't you worry," he said. "I figure out they had lots of fellas out on parole, and they got more going on all the time. If I get caught for anything out west, well, then they got my picture and my print in Washington. They'll send me back. But if I don't do no crimes, they won't give a damn." "Well, I'm scared about it. Sometimes you do a crime and you don't even know it's bad. Maybe they got crimes in California we don't even know about. Maybe you gonna do something, you gonna be alright, and California ain't gonna be alright," Ma said. "Be just the same if I wasn't on parole," Tom said. "Only if I get caught, I get a bigger jolt than other folks." "Now you quit worrying," he said. "We got plenty to worry about. You figuring out things to worry about." Let me read that again for you. "We got plenty to worry about, then you figuring out things to worry about." There you go. "I can't help it," she said. "The minute you cross the line, you done a crime." That rhymed. "Well, the bear sticking around Silent Saw and starving to death," he said. "You better look out for a place to stop." They went through Bethany and out on the other side, in a ditch, where a culvert went under the road, and old touring cars was pulled off the highway. Next page. And a little tent was pitched beside it, and the smoke came out of a stove pipe through the tent. Tom pointed ahead. "There's some folks camping. Looks like a good place to stay, as we've seen." He slowed his motor and pulled to a stop beside the road. The hood of the touring car was up, and the middle-aged man stood looking down at the motor. He wore a cheap straw sombrero, a blue shirt, and a black spotted vest, and his jeans were stiff and shiny with dirt. His face was lean, and the deep cheek lined grew furrows down his face, so that his cheekbones and his chin stood out sharply. He looked up at Joel's truck, and his eyes were puzzled and angry. Tom leaned out of the window. "Any law against folks stopping here for the night?" ? The man had seen only the truck. His eyes focused down on Tom. "I don't know," he said. "I only stopped here because we couldn't get no further." "Any water here?" ? The man pointed to a service station shack about a quarter of a mile ahead. "There's water there. They'll let you take a bucket of." Tom hesitated. "Well, you suppose we could camp down here alongside?" The lean man looked puzzled. "We don't own it," he said. "We only stopped here because the goddamn old trap wouldn't go no further." Tom insisted. "Anyway, you're here and we ain't. You got a right to say You want to be neighbors or not? The appeal to hostility had an instant effect. The lean face broke into a smile. Well, sure, come on out the road. Proud to have you. I don't have a good feeling about this. Anyways, and he said, surely, there's some good folk who'll stay with us. Come on out here and say how you doing, Shirley. Shirley ain't well. He added. The tent flapped open and a wizened woman came out, a face wrinkled as a dry leaf and the eyes that seemed to flame in her face. Black eyes that seemed to look out of a well of horror. Horror? Anyways, she was small and shuddering. She held herself upright by a tent flap, and the hand holding onto the canvas was a skeleton covered with wrinkled skin. Oh my gosh, what a way to describe an old person. When she spoke, her voice had a beautiful low timbre, soft and modulated, and yet with ringing overtones. Tell him welcome, she said. Tell him good and welcome. Tom drove off the road and brought his truck into the field and lined it up with the touring car. And the people boiled down from the truck. Ruthie and Winefield spoke quickly, so their legs gave way, and they shrieked at the pins and needles that ran through their limbs. Ma went quickly to work. She untied the 3-gallon bucket from the back of the truck and approached the squealing children. Now you go get water. Right down there, ask nice, say, please, can we get a bucket of water? And say thank you, and carry a bag together, helping, and don't spill none. If you could stick wood to burn, bring it on. And if you see stick wood to burn, bring it on. The children stamped away towards the shack. By the tent, a little embarrassment had set in. The social intercourse had paused before it started. Pa said, "You ain't Oklahoma, folks?" ? And Al, who stood next to the car, looked at the license plates. Kansas, he said. The lean man said, Atlanta, or right about there. Wilson, Ivory Wilson. That's his name, Ivory Wilson. We're Joels, said Pa. We come from right near Shellshaw. Well, we're proud to meet you folks, said Ivory Wilson. Surely these are the Joels. I know you wasn't Oklahoma folks. You talk queer, kinda. That ain't no blame. You understand? Everybody says different words, said Ivory. Arkansas folks say them different, and Oklahoma folks say them different. And we seen a lady from Massachusetts. She said them differentest of all. Differentest. Couldn't hardly make out what she was saying. Noel and Uncle John and the preacher began to unload the truck. They helped Grandpa down and sat him on the ground, and he sat limply, staring ahead of him. You sick, Grandpa? Noah asked. You goddamn right, said Grandpa weakly. Sicker than hell. Surly Wilson walked slowly and carefully towards him. How'd you like to come to my tent? She asked. You can lie down on a mattress and rest. He looked up at her, drawn by her soft voice. Come on now, she said. You gonna get some rest. We'll help you over. Without warning, Grandpa began to cry. His chin wavered and his lips tightened over his mouth, and he sobbed harshly. Ma rushed over to him and put her arms around him. She lifted him to his feet, his broad back straining, and she half lifted, half helped him into the tent. Uncle John said, He must be good old sick. He ain't never done that before. Never seen him blubbering in my life. He jumped up on the truck and tossed a mattress down. Ma came out of the tent and went to Cassie. You been around sick people? She asked. Grandpa's sick. Won't you go take a look at him? ? Cassie walked over to the tent and went inside. A double mattress was on the ground. The blankets spread neatly, and a little tin stove stood on iron legs, and the fire in it burned unevenly. The bucket of water, a wooden box of supplies, and a box for a table. That was all. The light of the setting sun come prickly through the tent walls. Shirley Wilston kneeled on the ground beside the mattress, and Grandpa laid on his back. His eyes were open, staring upward, and his cheeks were flushed. He breathed heavily. Casey took the skinny old wrist of his fingers. "Feeling kind of tired, Grandpa?" he asked. The staring eyes moved towards his voice, but did not find him. The lips practiced a speech, but did not speak it. Cassie felt the pulse, and he dropped the wrist and put his hand on Grandpa's forehead. A struggle began in the old man's body. His legs moved recklessly, and his hands stirred. He said a whole string of blurred sounds that were not words, and his face was red under the spiky white whiskers. Shirley Wilson spoke softly to Cassie. "No one's wrong?" He looked up at the wrinkled face and the burning eyes. "Do you?" "I think so." "What?" Cassie asked. "Might be wrong. I wouldn't like to say." Cassie looked back at the twitching red face. "Would you say maybe he's working up a stroke? ? "I'd say that," said Shirley. "I've seen it 3 times before." From outside, from the sounds of camp making, wood chopping, and the rattle of pans, Ma looked through the flaps. Grandma want to come in. Would she better?" The preacher said, "She'll just fret if she don't." "Think he's all right?" "Think he's all right?" Ma asked. Casey shook his head slowly. Ma looked quickly down at the struggling old face with blood pounding through it. She drew outside, and her face came through. "He all right, Grandma. He's just taking a little rest." And Grandma answered sulkily, "Well, I want to see him. He's a tricky devil. He wouldn't never let you know." And she came scurrying through the flaps. She stood over the mattress and looked down. "What's the matter, you?" she demanded of Grandpa. And again his eyes reached towards her voice, and his lips wreathed. "He's sulking," said Grandma. "I told you he was tricky. He was going to sneak away this morning, and he would have to come. And then his hip guy in the herd," she said disgustedly. "Just sulking. I seen him when he was talking to nobody before." Casey said gently, "He ain't sulking, Grandma. He's sick." "Oh," she looked down at the old man again. "Sick? Bad, you think?" "Pretty bad, Grandma." For a moment she hesitated uncertainly. "Well," she said quickly, "why ain't you praying? You're a preacher, ain't you?" Casey's strong fingers blundered over at Grandpa's wrist and clamped around it. "I told you, Grandma, I ain't a preacher no more." "Pray anyways," she ordered. "You're all stuck by heart." "I can't," said Cassie. "I don't know what to pray for, who to pray to." Grandma's eyes wandered away and came to rest on Sari's. "You wouldn't pray?" she said. I heard tell you how Ruthie prayed when she was a little skinner. Said, 'Now I lay me down to sleep. I prayed the Lord my soul to keep.' And when she got there, the cupboards was bare, and so the poor dog got none. Amen." That's just what she done." The shadow of somebody walking between the tent and the sun crossed the canvas. Grandpa seemed to be struggling. All of his muscles twitched, and suddenly he jarred as though under a heavy blow. He laid still, and his breath was stopped. Casey looked down at the old man's face and saw that it was turning a blackish purple. Sari touched Casey's shoulder. She whispered, "His tongue! His tongue! His tongue!" Casey nodded. Get in front of Grandma. He pried the tight jaws apart, and he reached into the old man's throat from the tongue. And as if he lifted it clear, a rattled breath came out, and a sobbing breath was indrawn. Oh. Casey found a stick on the ground and held down the tongue with it, and an uneven breath rattled in and out. Grandma hopped up about like a chicken. Pray, she said. Pray, you pray, I tell you. Sorry tried to hold her back. Pray, goddamn you, pray! Grandma cried. Casey looked up at her for a moment. The rasping breath came louder and more unevenly. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy glory, Grandma said. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Amen. A long gasping sigh from the open mouth, and then a crying relief of air. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us. The breathing had stopped. Casey looked down into Grandpa's eyes, and they were clear and deep and penetrating, and there was a knowing, serene look in them. My goodness. Hallelujah. Go on. Amen, Cassie said. Grandma was still there, and outside the tent all the noise had stopped. A car whizzed by on the highway. Casey still kneeled on the floor beside the mattress. The people outside were listening, standing quietly, intent on the sounds of dying. Sorry took Grandma by the arm and led her outside. Grandma moved with dignity and held her head high. She walked for the family and held her head straight for the family. Shirley took her to the mattress lying on the ground and sat her down on it. Grandma looked straight ahead proudly, for she was on show now. The tent was still, and at last Cassie spread the tent flags with his hands and stepped out. Pa asked softly, "What was it?" ? Stroke, said Cassie. A good, quick stroke. Life began to move again. The sun touched the horizon and flattened over again. And along the highway, there came a long line of huge freight trucks with red sides. Okay, this is where I'm going to smoke right fast. We're about 18 to 20 minutes deep in this reading. 22 minutes overall. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I'm repeating myself more than often. I apologize. As I go through this and get better at it, I don't believe I'm going to find myself having to repeat as often. That's the hope, at least. Anyways. Clink. Poor Grandpa, man. Poor freaking Grandpa. Nobody wants that. Gosh. Anyways. How's it going? You think the wall will still back? Alright. Let's get back to it. Page 145, second sentence from the top. They rumbled along, putting a little earthquake in the ground. In the standing exhaust pipe spurted blue smoke from the diesel oil. One man drove each truck, and his relief man slept in a bunk high up against the ceiling. But the trucks never stopped, and they thundered day and night, and the ground shook under their heavy march. The family began a unit. Pa squatted down on the ground, and Uncle John beside him. Pa was the head of the family now. Ma stood beside him. Noah and Tom and Al squatted, and the preacher sat down, and they reclined on his elbow. Connie and Rosa Sharon walked at a distance. Now Ruthie and Winefield chattered up with a bucket of water held between them. Felt the change, and they slowed up and set down the bucket and moved quietly to stand with Ma. Grandma sat proudly, coldly, until the group was formed, until no one looked at her, and then she laid down and covered her face with her arm. Poor Grandma. The red sun set and left a shining twilight on the land, so that faces were bright in the evening, and the eyes shone in the reflection of the sky. The evening picked up light where it could. Paul said it was in Mr. Wilson's tent. Uncle John nodded. He loaned the tent. Fine, friendly folks, Paul said softly. Wilson stood by his broken car, and Sherry had gone to the mattress to sit beside Grandma. But Shirley was careful not to touch her. Paul called, "Mr. Wilson." The man scurried over and squatted down, and Sherry came and stood beside him. Paul said, "We're thankful for you folks." "Proud to help," said Wilson. "We're beholden to you." That's a nice word. "There's no beholden in a time of dying," said Wilson, and Sherry echoed him. "Never no beholden." Al said, "I'll fix your car, me and Tom will." Al looked proud as he could return the family's obligation. God, I hope they could fix their car. "We could use some help," Wilson admitted the retiring of the obligation. Paul said, "We gotta figure what to do. There's laws. You gotta report a death, and when you do that, there's either take $40 from the undertaker or they take him for a pauper." Wait, so is Grandpa dead? Uncle John broke in. "We never did have no paupers." Tom said, "Maybe we gotta learn. We never got booted off no land before neither." "We done it clean," said Paul. They can't no blame be laying on us. That's a double whatchamacallit. They can't no blame be laid on us. I'm going to try that one more time. I'm sorry, audience. There can't be no blame be laid on us. We never took none. We couldn't pay. We never suffered no man's charity. When Tom here got in trouble, we could hold up our heads. He only done what any man would have done. "Then what do?" said Uncle John. "We go in like the law says, and they'll come out for him. And we only got $150. They take 40 to bury Grandpa, and we won't get to California, or else they'll bury him a pauper." The men stirred restively, and they studied the darkened ground in front of their feet. Paul said softly, "Grandpa buried his paw with his own hand. Done it with dignity and shaped the grave nice with his own shovel. That was a time where a man had the right to be buried by his own son, and a son had the right to bury his own father. The law says different now," says Uncle John. "I wish I could bury my father. I mean, not now, like, of course I'm hoping for his everlasting existence. You know, I want my father to have a good life even after death. Anyways, that'd just be nice to bury my father. Anyways, sometimes the laws can't be followed. Following anyway," said Paul. "Not in decency, anyways. There's a lot of times you can't. When Floyd was loose and gone wild, law said we got to give him up, and nobody gave him up. Sometimes a fella could stifle the law. I'm saying now, I got the right to bury my own paw. Anybody got something to say? Question mark. The preacher rose high on his elbow. Laws changed, he said. We got to go on. Got the right to do what you got to do. That's a cool preacher. Paul turned to Uncle John. It's your right too, John. You got any word against it? No word against it, said Uncle John. It's like hiding him in the night. Grandpa Wade was to come out and shoot him. He is dead. Oh my gosh. Paul said ashamedly. We can't do like Grandpa done. We got to get to California before our money gives out. Tom broke in. Sometimes fellas work and digs up a man and then they raise hell and figured he'd been killed. The government got more interest in a dead man than a live one. They got hell scraping trying to find out who he was and how he died. After we put a note in writing in a bottle laid with Grandpa, telling who he is and how he died and why he buried here. Paul nodded in agreement. That's good. Write out a nice hand. Be not so lonesome too, knowing his name is there, and I'm just an old fella, lonesome underground. Any more stuff to say? The circle was silent. Paul turned his head to Ma. You'll lay him out? I'll lay him out, Ma said. But who's to get supper? Shirley Wilson said. I'll get supper. You go right ahead, me and that big girl of yours. We sure thank you, Ma said. Noah, you get into them kegs and bring out some nice pork. Salt won't be deep in it yet, but it'll be right nice in. We got a half sack of potatoes, said Shirley. Ma said, give me $2.50. Paul dug into his pockets and gave her the silver. She found the basin, filled it full of water, and went into the tent. It was nearly dark in there. Shirley came in and lighted a candle and struck it upright on a box, and then she went out. For a moment, Ma looked down at the dead old man. Oh my God, he was just confirmed. And then, in pity, she tore a strip from her own apron and tied up his jaw. She strained his limbs, folded his hands over his chest. She held his eyelids down and laid a silver piece on each one. It's kind of cool. She buttoned his shirt and washed his face. Shirley looked in, saying, Can I give you any help? Ma looked slowly. Come in, she said. I'd like to talk to you. That's a good old big girl you got, said Shirley. She right peeling potatoes. What can I do for you? ? I was going to wash Grandpa all over, Ma said, but he got no other clothes to put on, and of course you'll quill and spoil him. Can't never get the smell of death from a quill. I seen a dog growling and shake at a mattress my mom died on, and that was 2 years ago. We'll rope him in your quill. We'll make it up to you. We got a quill for you. Shirley said, You shouldn't talk like that. We proud to help. I ain't felt so safe in a long time. People needs to help. Ma nodded. They do, she said. She looked long into the long, wrinkly face, and its balanced jaw and silver eyes shining in the candlelight. He ain't never gonna look natural. We'll rope him up. The old lady took it good. Why is she so old? Ma said. Maybe she don't even rightly know what happened. Maybe she won't really know for quite a while. Besides, us folks take a pride holding in. My pa used to say anybody could break down. It takes a man not to. Wow. We always try to hold in. She folded the quilt neatly about Grandpa's legs and about his shoulders. Forget about was like. Anyways, she brought the corner of the quilt over his head like a crow and pulled it down over his face. Shirley handed her half a dozen big safety pins, and she pinned the quilt neatly and tied it about the long package. And at last she stood up. Won't be a bad bearing, she said. We got a preacher to see him in, and and his focuses all around. Suddenly she swayed a little, and Shirley went to her and steadied her. "It's sleep," Ma said in a shamed tone. "No, I'm alright. We got so busy getting ready, you see." "Come out in the air," Shirley said. "Yeah, I'm all done here."